Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fasiha Nabilah binti HUSAIMI, and this is my group mate, Sri ARYANI binti RAHMAN. We are from Group 4, and today we will present for our project Phase 2. So let's get started with Task 1 with Sri ARYANI.
Okay, hi, Assalamualaikum and selamat sejahtera. I am Sri. Okay, I'm going to explain for project 2 task 1. Okay, include 18A4550.h is the file that we use for PIC 18550. So deliver ADC, analog digital converter. So port A, port B, port C and port D we define as a port, and next we define IN1, IN2 at pin RE0 and RE1 is for input motor, DC motor. Next we define PB1, PB2 and PB3 at pin B1, B2 and B3 at for the push button. So include flex lcd.c is the file that we use because we use LCD display. So void main. So flag A, we use A, B, C, D. So this one we set 3C and 3D as an output. LCD init, LCD enable. So set up ADC port, analog 0 to analog 1. Set up ADC clock internal. So this is for analog. So while this is the formula that we use to convert analog value to digital value. Next, then printf LCD put C. The LCD will display PWM value. Next, while when PB1 is pressed, the LCD put C will display CW, which means clockwise. The input pin E0 is high, while input pin E1 is low. Next, when PB2 is pressed, the LCD will display counterclockwise, which LCD pin E0 is low, while DC input pin E1 is high. Next is when PB3 is pressed, the LCD will display stop, while the input for DC motor is both in low condition. Next, this is for LED, depends to PWM value. So this is the condition. If the condition is between 0 until 40, all the LED will turn off, no LED will on. Next, if the condition is between 25 to 80, one LED will on. Next, when condition is 81 until 120, two LED will on. Next, at condition 121 until 140, three LED will on. And next, at condition 141 until 180, all the LED will on. And lastly, when the condition is at 181 until 255, all the LED will blinking. Okay, so this is the we run this. Okay, next we proceed to the circuit. So we play. Okay, when the push PB1 is pressed, the LCD will display CW, which is clockwise, and the DC motor will run clockwise. Next, when PB2 is pressed, the LCD will display counterclockwise and the DC motor will play counterclockwise. Next, when the PB3 is pressed, the LCD will stop and also the DC motor will stop. So next, we go to the condition for LED. Depends to PWM value. So for condition 1 is value for 0 to 40, no LED will on. So this one no LED will on. So next 41 to 80, one LED will on. Sorry. One LED will on. Next 81 to 120, two LED will on. Two LED will on. Next is 121 to 140, 3 LED will on. So 3 LED will on. Next 141 until 180, 4 LED will on. So this one 180, 4 LED will on. And lastly, at condition 180 until 255, the LED, all the LED will blink. So that's all from me. Next, we proceed to Fasiha for task 2.
Okay, so I'll start sharing my screen. Okay, so this is the coding for part 2. So firstly, we include 18F for 550 as we are using the PIC 18F for 550. So next is we declare the port A, B, C, D, and then is we declare the input and output. So here we include the library for flex lcd.c because we are using the LCD. So next is fluid V1, V2, V3, BCD. So this is for the potentiometer and etc. So 3C, 3D is for the output. Okay, so next is the first one is for the calculation and formula. So this is for converting the analog value to digital value. So C is equal to B over 5 times with 100 is for scaling range from 0% to 100%. And the last one is the formula for converting to PWM value. So the first one is the first condition is when analog 2 minus analog 1 is bigger or equal bigger than 300, which is V2 minus V1. Here we declare. So the LCD will display CW, which means clockwise. And next is V1 minus V2 means that analog 1 minus analog 2 is bigger than 300, the LCD will display counterclockwise. And the last one, the condition for LCD is analog 1 minus analog 2 is less than or equal than 300. it will display stop. Okay, so this is for the condition for the LED. So the LED will turn on depend to PWM value. So the first one is where the range varied from 0 to 40. None of the LED will lights on. So next is from 41 to 80. LED 1 will lights on. From 81 to 120. LED 1 and LED 2 will turns on, and 120 to 140, 3 LED will turns on. From 141 to 180, all of the LED will turns on. And the last one is from 181 to 255, the LED will blink. Okay, so let's move to the simulation. Alright. Okay, so firstly, when analog input 1 is minus analog input 2, the LED, the LCD will display stop. Okay, so if I put here, okay, will display stop. And then if analog input 1 minus analog input 2 is bigger than 300, it will display counterclockwise. Okay, and the last one is where the analog input 2 is bigger, minus analog input 1 is bigger than 300. So LCD will display clockwise. Okay, so let's move to the condition of LED. So the first one is from 0 to 40. So I'll put 20 here. As you can see, there are no LED lights on. Okay, and then from 41 to 80, only one LED will turns on. Okay, and from 81 to 120, two LED will turns on. Okay, so next is 121 to 140, three LED will turns on. 141 to 180, all of the LED will turns on. And the last one is 181 to 255. The LED will blinks and the delay is around 200 milliseconds. So I forgot to say earlier, if it display counterclockwise or clockwise, the servo motor will move to the display as the display one. So as earlier, if A2 minus A1, it will display clockwise. So here, servo motor is moving to the clockwise direction. And as for the other, it also will display. Sorry, servo motor. Sorry, DC motor. It will move according to the display. So I think that's all from us. Thank you and goodbye.